Today I'm going to be painting a sunset countryside scene and explaining my process as I go. So I've already started, and the main job for the first few minutes is to get the big shapes in using the color fill select tool in Procreate on the iPad. I'm sketching in some of the fields here. I don't generally sketch anything when I do landscape paintings, but the fields were quite fiddly to know where they go, etc. So I put in the dividing bushy type things on the field so I knew where to put the patches of grass. So I'm still just blocking in the shapes using the color fill and trying to get roughly the right color. I'm not too bothered if it's wrong because I can change it later. Generally, I'm just trying to get how light or dark everything is first and a rough color. You'll see the colors change quite a lot throughout the painting because I think it's very hard to nail the color until all the colors are in. You can't really tell because they relate to each other. So my idea is just to get everything in first. I'm putting all of these fields onto a separate layer so I can change them easily. I tend not to use too many layers, but for this I thought it would be a good idea because you can get variations in the fields easier if they're not on the same layer. So the sky is quite tricky. What I generally do is I try not to paint the sky. I use colors and layers and use Gaussian blur to soften everything. So it'll slow down a bit when I go back to the sky later, and you'll see me using this Gaussian blur and layers quite a lot, and I'll explain more when we get there. But now I'm working back on the fields and the trees. I just got a very dark green there. It's almost black. Try not to use black because it doesn't work very well in landscapes. Just pick the green and get very, very dark, but stay away from black. I'm trying to put the details on the fields. These were quite awkward, to be honest, because there's lots of them and they're kind of subtle. But I'm onto the bush. Again, I'm using the color fill and trying to make sort of random shapes. I'm not following the reference that much. I'm just trying to get a gist of where everything goes. And you can see I'm not exactly careful in what I'm doing. And that's by design. I don't want to, spend hours copying these little details. It doesn't really matter. You can't, nobody knows. So one thing important if you use the color fill, I'm using the technical pen from Procreate, just the usual ink in one, and putting in little details here and there. These are very important. Otherwise, they'll look a bit blocky. So this is what I was talking about with the sky and Gaussian blur. Now this might look kind of weird. It just looks like a big blob. But what you need to do if you're using Gaussian blur like I do is you need to go bigger than what you get, because by the time it blurs out, you lose a lot of it and you lose a lot of the color and definition. So you don't have to be careful, but you have to go a bit more colorful, a bit brighter, and a bit further out than what you need. Because it kind of dissipates as it blurs more. So it's trial and error, and keep each one of these effects. Every time you Gaussian blur it, create a new layer and do it again. Otherwise, you'll blur the previous one and then it'll just get in a bit of a mess. So you can see here that I'm using a very, very red. But by the time you Gaussian blur it, most of the red disappears. And you're left with mostly what's underneath. So that's kind of why you need the layers too. This has probably gone a little bit too red, but that doesn't matter. I'd like to make things overly colorful anyway. I'm not trying to match this reference photo that much. I just want it to describe where the light goes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to, so when the sky is setting, the sun is setting, sorry, it gives off a big glow for things around it. Again, I've probably gone overboard, but that's just my preference. If you're trying to match it, just desaturate the colors and make them a little bit lighter, and that will get more realistic if that's what you're going for. So I did like 8 layers or something like that to get the sun and the sky. It's like blobbing a color, Gaussian blur it, maybe change the color with the filters and menus and things like that to try again. And if quite often when I do a Gaussian blur, it doesn't work though. I cut out the times of me messing around when it doesn't work because it's not that interesting. But if you try and it looks funny, just delete the layer or clear the layer and try again. And it'll take a bit of trial and error until it starts to do what you want. I find it much easier than doing airbrushing. So with the Gaussian blur, you actually have a lot of control because it's only going to soften what you put down underneath, obviously. So don't be surprised if it looks a bit funny, though, when you try the first couple of times, but you'll get used to it. But it's very nice to get perfect gradients in Procreate. If you try and use a soft brush to do this, it'll be very difficult. I haven't really needed to explain what I'm doing here. Most of the painting's kind of in now, so I spent a couple of minutes just with details and highlights and things there, all using a technical pen. And you'll see me doing the Gaussian blur now and again. So if I want anything soft, I'll do the technical pen, make it hard, use the Gaussian blur, and I'll soften it. So obviously in paintings, you need a mix between the hard and the soft, and the Gaussian blur thing's awesome to make these super nice gradients. So I'm not doing anything ultra important after this point. You could probably stop without this kind of stuff, but it adds to it, the little atmosphere in the back and things like that. But there's nothing crazy important here, so I've sped it up so you don't have to get bored watching me fiddle. So I put another effect down the bottom there, like the sun is making the bushes glow. Again, that's just hard edge brush. Again, I'm using Gaussian blur again. Just make sure it's on a different layer, otherwise you'll blur everything. And remember, go bigger and more colorful, and then you can drop it back. Or make so you see me messing around with the hues and things. So if you like that, give me a like and sub. And I'm doing a challenge of 100 landscapes, and this was number 8. So there's 7 of these. I'll put the links in the description, sorry. And if you like them, check them out. Thanks.